Do you know what Ukraine is? Ukraine is just about 43 million people. 43 million people in Ukraine. You know, fighting the most super power in the world. A nation fighting a nation without army, without arm, without weapon, rallying and getting support. I actually wish we could have leaders. Leaders, real leaders who sacrifice comfort, sacrifice wealth and prestige, die with us, stay with us, and grow our land. He talks to every president at every point in time. The mix of all the missiles, all the bombs, all the drones flying across and around his country. In the mix of all of this, he's managing his country, firing the people that need to be fired. You know, honoring people that needed to be honored, visiting those who have been harmed or injured, and during the war, and also visiting burial sites in honor of those who are falling for what cause they believe in. For me, if I have one person I need to give an award in this season, it goes to nobody else but President Volodymyr Zelensky. He doesn't know how to speak English. Of course, English is not important. The countries that are ruling the world don't speak English. You just need to know your stuff. You may be a mechanic, you may be a farmer, you may be a teacher, you may be a book writer, you may just be anything. I'm saying this also for you to realize that leadership is not in the four walls of the schools that you have been to. These are days that we see movie actors sitting in the House of Parliament. We have seen sportsmen, George Weah, becoming presidents of nations. So here I know we represent different professions, different category of people, and also you are in the right place because you are meant to be a leader. Napoleon Hill, the writer of the famous book, Think and Grow Rich, says, if you decide to become something and give 30 minutes of your time daily, thinking, dreaming, and pursuing it, you're likely going to be it. So for making out time to be here, spending the whole season or month or semester or session, I think you decided to be a leader because one of the things that the world actually desires so much than any other thing is leadership. Everything starts and ends in leadership. Recently, just last week, or rather this week, African nations, you heard from the diplomacy, African nations visited Vladimir Putin because of grains. Food were not coming down to Africa. And then we visited Putin, one, to make a case for peace in Ukraine, which I pray happens very soon. And secondly, to create a window for redistribution and supply of food to Africa. You know what? I have my opinion. You have your opinion. The world has its opinion, but the future will answer. I see that aspect of asking for a window of grain and food items to be supplied to Africa as a big shame. It's a big shame. And when I saw it on the headline, 7 a.m. on Thursday morning, Putin giving free grains to Africa. Is that what we have been reduced to? Yes. We're reduced to food. Our lands are in need of industries. We've been draining petroleum, pumping petroleum and its product for over 60 years. And we have no functioning refineries. It is leaders that sit here who have visions, who have the technical abilities, like Volodymyr Zelensky, who can rally around and bring support for his people. So we could put infrastructures on ground. Look at the vast land. We are over 200 million. of people. And our profession is agriculture. And then we're begging a country not as big as us, to give. And then it sounds, I don't know how it sounds in your ears anyway. Grain, just grain. And that's an insult to Africa. Yeah. But we hope the grain comes anyway, because we have not put any structures on ground to sustain ourselves. If you have traveled across Nigeria, for instance, alright, let's look at it from here, Marabanjama to forests. Look at your left, look at the right. Vast land, very green, with healthy climates. There are no crops growing on them. The same thing, look at Kano, Bauchi, Jigawa to Kano. Lands, expanse of lands. The world, Nigeria, is actually begging for leadership. I was at the lecture you had before now. A lot went through my mind, diplomacy. You can't have diplomacy if you don't know history. You can't be diplomatic if you don't know the law, if you don't know your people. You can't have diplomacy. And that is why anyone who is not educated in humanity, in law, in history, international relationship, cannot or should not be a leader of the people. It takes much more to be a leader. You heard what the lawyer said about negotiation. You should have ability to speak. You don't negotiate by thinking. You don't negotiate walking. You have to have control temperament. So in the midst of all of the troubles in the world, you should be negotiating, trying to make sense, and have everything it needs to make a point so you can bring results back home. So that's a lot about leadership. We are in their need of leadership. This will have been my end point, but I'm starting at the very starting point. If you read Animal Farm, it defies the world actually. We've been begging for change for a long time coming. Old Major saying, I know change is coming. It may be now, maybe later, maybe much later. But that change came anyways. And that's, I think, what we are actually begging for in Nigeria. And not just in Nigeria, in Africa. We're begging for this change because as of this morning, Nigeria was rated to be the biggest economy in Africa. South Africa was second. Egypt was third. But the irony? Of these three countries, Nigeria has the lowest GDP. As I speak with you right now, the world has stopped grading nations based on GDP. The world is grading nations based on gross domestic happiness. Yes. And there are only a few nations that have hit this classification. I can name a few of them. Saudi Arabia is one. The United Arab Emirates is another. Qatar is another. Oman is another. These are where people are happy. They don't practice democracy. We're talking about leadership, okay? There are all kinds of leadership. You hear some of them as we go on. But they show the world that they control things. For those of you who are Christians, they are not Christians. So it's not about religion. For those of you who have gone to schools and have spent years and decades of your life schooling, it's also not about schooling. Yes, it involves schooling. What level of education do they have? The kings in the Arab countries. How do they get things done? How do they build monuments? But you know what? They are not richer than us. They are not more endowed naturally than us. We are more than them. But we're not getting it right. And until we get this leadership, who will put corruption down, as the lawyer said, and self-centeredness aside, I don't think we're in the pathway to start getting it. Right, so leadership is not about degrees or title. Yes. You can be a leader without any of those things, degrees or title, any of those things. Teachers are becoming presidents. At least President Macron was a teacher. But of course, don't be deceived, he had a lot of academic training. Psychology, philosophy, and all of that. And you can see, apparently acting as the president of Europe. But he was a teacher before he became president. It's not about personal attributes. You could be a superhero, just like we see a lot of people in Nigeria. We haven't translated into any good thing that has to be leadership. It's not whether you are born with the right set of genes. Yes, I will tell you that the future is going that way anyway, because we're getting to a stage in life that you program a population of people into what you want them to become. And there we are, there right now. As we speak with you, the soldiers in China have been engineered. Sorry, I talk from medical perspective a lot because I understand the world from the world of medicine.
Yes.
They have been engineered, they have vision like ultraviolet rays. They see in the dark. Yes, they see in the dark. So you can imagine a Nigerian soldier on a combat field with a Chinese soldier at night. While you need illumination gadgets, these guys' eyes have been genetically engineered to see and take you out. Of course, if you have watched the news these days, you know it's about demonstration of power. It's also about power leadership, world leadership. All this happening in the world is a race. A race for dominance, whether you like it or not. A race for supremacy. A race for being the best.